with that, I'm going to move on to sustainable sourcing. Where's sustainable sourcing?
I got
Here's John. All right, thank you. Shelly and Kristen. They picked me because I have nice pants on. Kristen, my colleague at Whirlpool, and I asked her, I said, what's the agenda? She said, no agenda. So what's the dress code? She said, I don't know. And I said, can I wear jeans? And she said, no, probably not.
He's so lying. Don't believe anything he says.
I'll start with, I'm actually going to read the problem statement because it's pretty well stated. And it's maybe not as, I would reinforce that the last topic was a fairly impactful topic, and we should all pay attention to that. This is also near and dear to our hearts, but maybe not as, I don't know, we'll determine if this is impactful. We think that the future of sustainable sourcing, the Pandora's box, will open, where a cutting-edge sourcing technology solution will one day intuitively reveal, source, and capture all leads, competitive intelligence, and human capital market information, ultimately automating and creating sustainable talent pipelines. That was very well written. Essentially, what we have is and I get the luxury of walking around in the room a little bit because we were in this section of the room. We have a huge group of people here that are potential employees in the U.S. market, about 160 million people in the U.S. market. Globally, it's a much larger number than that. We don't know what the global number is. Does anybody actually know how many employees there are globally available? Yeah, lots.
Billion plus.
Yeah, it is. It's billions, I think. If we think about if we think about it as a large sphere and all the different technologies that essentially people use to communicate with each other, have relationships with each other. There's the Zooms, there's the LinkedIn, there's Monster.com, there's Google, Yahoo, MSN. There's a number of buckets of millions of people. They cross over, they interact with each other. The people in Zoom are the same people potentially that are in Monster, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. A number of you are probably involved with those things or those different sites. The fact is that there's no one technology. If we go back to the big technology issue, there's no one technology that takes all of them and hooks them together. And so what we came up with was not necessarily a solution. We definitely thought we were feeling like we were writing a business plan. But we came up with a statement, and I'll go into some detail. But we talked about creating a scalable global talent acquisition tool that encompasses talent management for leads, employers, and alumni via social networking data, proficiency in open talent markets, supported through mobile or other proprietary technology, public platforms that motivate and inspire exchange of info. So, again, we're very flashy with our words. But what does that mean? Create a system that is end-user configurable so that people can select the different mediums that they want to use to attract talent. It's a system that goes out potentially, could be through proprietary sites that collects and gathers global data. So essentially a system that can go out and suck out the information from all of these different spheres and then integrate and communicate with both ends and generate interest and inspire people to have communication with each other. Obviously, the goal would be building one-to-one relationships rather than, I don't think it was Steve, but it was Scott that talked about building one-to-one relationships within the system so that people, hiring managers aren't necessarily sending out a job spec to a number of people, but based on inspiration and aspiration, they are John and Scott talking to each other about a specific opportunity within a company. So, Shally, Kristen, did you add anything to that?
I think that you covered a lot of it. The other portion is all of us came from very different environments, very different companies, and everyone had different needs based on their structure. And to really make this sustainable and to really kind of tap into it, we all kind of agreed that this is something that has to be scalable. So whatever your model for your organization and whatever it is that you need to achieve through this tool or your business objectives, that this needs to be scalable and usable for all those different models. So that's probably the only other piece that I would add into it.
It was about sourcing, so we stopped at the point where the data comes out. We didn't continue into the relationship and the recruiting and all that other stuff. We did touch on that because in order to engage the middle, which is the black hole that doesn't encompass all those spheres, we have to generate interest because those people are not in databases. So we have to connect and generate interest. That's why there's a little bit of communication and networking aspect to it. But we stopped at the point where someone's no longer a piece of information, now they're a relationship. At that point, we hand it off to whatever the rest of the process, which could be hiring managers, could be recruiters, could be staffing firms. It doesn't matter what, it's completely configurable.
Anyone else from the team?
The thing that surprised me the most, the exercise that we went through, is does this data currently exist out there, and are other companies using it, and is there an application that we could use it in our discipline in terms of sourcing and talent? And there is. I mean, when we came up with, does the data already exist? Well, yeah, it already exists within our own systems and talent pools. That when we talk about that's the low-hanging fruit, how do we even mine our own talent pools, which most companies can't even do that well. There's really not a silver bullet to do that. And then we talked about what is the data that other companies use to mine that are permission-based or even non-permission-based in terms of sourcing talent. And they're everywhere. Creditors and financial services institutions and Equifaxes and marketing service database providers. Those people are out there. We haven't really figured out a way to find them, but other companies have. Just not in terms of how to acquire talent, really how to acquire customers.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Exactly. Bingo. I mean,
Yeah,
we got to get to it where it's, we're channeling it with that mindset of that, what does the consumer want? What is the channel? What's their motivation? That's, we got to go at it differently.
Well, what's interesting at EA is that, we've done a lot of work internally with sort of CRM or customer experience management on the recruiting side, and we've just started to enter into dialogue with our marketing function, which is kind of cool because the stuff we've done with Salesforce, we've sort of introduced to our marketing organization. And I think to Linda's point, it's spot on. And one of the meetings I was in last week in the marketing group was how even us as consumers of information don't want to be marketed to, and a lot of us that are sort of more intelligent or cynical, when we feel like we're being marketed to or sold to, we sort of shut down. And so much of what they've done on the sales and marketing side is the spam emails. It's the same exact issue on the talent side. We need to build relevant and meaningful and targeted relationships, and it's almost that experience. And so they're calling it experience-tainment almost at EA. So how can you almost entertain? So when we watch Super Bowl advertising, we get entertained by those, and we almost forget that we're actually being marketed to. And I feel like we almost have to do the same thing with our talent communities now, is build those meaningful relationships that feel real and genuine, but targeted to that specific person and their interests versus an email spam to everyone saying we're hiring at EA.
Right. I think Kristen and I are dealing with the same thing at Whirlpool. There's definitely a difference between feeling like you're being asked to give something than you determining that you want to give it to someone else.
Right.
And I think we talked about that for more than a few minutes in our session. It's all about engaging this big group of people here to be inspired to participate and to give something that they want to give you, rather than feeling like they're getting a mass campaign sent their way.
Something that we talked about that goes along with what Jeff was saying, I hadn't heard it say CMR, and we talk about it a little bit as user control. Yeah. So that 160 million of those individuals out there seems to be some fatigue in using online systems or spammed email, etc. And so the ability to either profile or to give data based on what I'm willing to give, versus some of the old world as recruiters where we're accustomed to going out and getting data and then contacting. It's almost reverse. So a network opportunity that allows for that type of interaction.
Did you used to work at Hire.com?
Did you?
I've never heard of that company. Thank you, John.
Yeah, they had a layoff.
Something. I think there's a hidden assumption in everything we do inside of talent, especially on the recruiting side, that having a job available is enough value to overcome any mistakes or problems we create. And for an increasing number of people, that's not true. So you have to be able to provide value continuously through the engagement cycle. That's not just, hey, you may have a job here, so stick with it. So that's, so that'll be, I think that's a fascinating conversation to keep on going with. Thank you very much. Okay, so here's